On the evening of August 21, 1986, Lake Nyos looked completely peaceful. Families in the surrounding villages ate dinner, tended their animals and prepared for sleep. Then, sometime after dark, the lake released something invisible. By morning, more than 1,700 people were dead. There had been no lava, no wildfire, no poisonous smell warning people to run. The victims simply stopped breathing as a silent cloud moved through their homes. Entire families died without understanding what was happening. When survivors emerged the following morning, the world around them had become unnaturally still. Neighbors did not answer, cattle lay across fields, birds and insects seemed to have vanished. Some survivors remembered hearing a distant rumble before losing consciousness. Others remembered nothing at all. Lake Nyos sits in the volcanic highlands of northwestern Cameroon. It occupies a deep crater surrounded by steep hills and valleys. To the communities living nearby, it was a source of water, fertile land and grazing. Nothing on its calm surface suggested that the lake had been storing a lethal secret. The lake was not boiling. It was not filled with acid. And the disaster was not a conventional volcanic eruption. The killer was carbon dioxide, the same colors, odorless gas people breathe out every day. But at Lake Nyos, it had accumulated in extraordinary quantities. Deep beneath the lake, volcanic activity released carbon dioxide through cracks in the rock. The gas entered groundwater and slowly dissolved into the deepest layers of the lake. Year after year, more of it collected below the surface. Lake Nyos is deep, and its waters normally remain separated into layers. Warm surface water stays above colder, denser water below. Because the layers rarely mix, the gas-rich water at the bottom remained trapped under enormous pressure. The lake was behaving like a sealed bottle of carbonated water. Inside a sealed bottle, pressure keeps carbon dioxide dissolved. But open it suddenly, and bubbles form. Those bubbles rise, reducing the pressure and allowing even more gas to escape. At Lake Nyos, a similar process occurred on a massive scale. Scientists still debate exactly what began the event. A landslide may have disturbed the deep water. Cool rain, strong winds or an internal change within the lake may have played a role. It is also possible the lower water had simply reached a point of instability. Whatever the trigger, gas-rich water began rising. As the water rose, the pressure around it fell. Carbon dioxide formed bubbles. The bubbles made the water more buoyant, pulling it upward faster. That released even more gas, which drove even more water toward the surface. Within moments, the process was feeding itself. The lake appeared to erupt. A violent column of water and gas burst upward. A wave stripped vegetation near the shore. Deep water rich in iron reached the surface, later giving parts of the lake a reddish-brown color. But the most dangerous part of the eruption could not be seen. A huge cloud of carbon dioxide spilled over the crater rim. Carbon dioxide is heavier than ordinary air. Instead of dispersing upward, the dense gas flowed downhill, following the valleys directly toward nearby villages. The cloud displaced the breathable air around it. People inside the densest part of the gas cloud received almost no oxygen. There was no smoke to see, no smell to identify, and little time to understand the danger. Some lamps reportedly went out as the cloud arrived. People collapsed inside houses, along paths and in fields. Those who were already asleep often never woke. Others lost consciousness and later recovered only because the gas moved on before they died. Survivors described waking hours later with headaches, weakness and confusion. Some discovered that every other person in their household was dead. Others walked through several villages before finding anyone alive. The disaster zone stretched far beyond the lake itself. Because the gas followed low ground, its effects were uneven. One house could be devastated while people on higher ground survived. Animals on valley floors died, while some located above the cloud remained alive. The landscape itself had directed the disaster. When emergency teams arrived, the scene made little sense. There were no burned buildings, no obvious wounds, no evidence of an attack. Many victims looked as though they had simply fallen asleep. Some rescuers initially feared an unknown disease or chemical weapon. Hundreds of survivors were treated for breathing difficulties, weakness, confusion and skin injuries. Medical teams needed to determine what they had been exposed to, while scientists tried to explain how a lake could kill people kilometers away. Researchers arrived from Cameroon and around the world. They sampled the water at different depths. They measured gases, temperature and chemistry. The deeper their instruments went, the clearer the answer became. Water drawn from the depths released enormous quantities of carbon dioxide when brought to lower pressure. The lake had contained a hidden reservoir of dissolved gas. The disaster was eventually described as a limnic eruption, a sudden release of gas from deep lake water. There had been a warning. 2 years earlier, another Cameroonian lake, Lake Nyos, had released carbon dioxide and killed 37 people. At the time, the event was poorly understood. After Lake Nyos, scientists realized they were confronting an exceptionally rare natural hazard. Both lakes sat in volcanic terrain. Both were deep enough to trap gas-rich water, and both remained strongly layered, preventing the carbon dioxide below from escaping gradually. Lake Nyos had simply accumulated far more gas, with far more people living in its path. Early explanations competed. Had magma erupted directly beneath the lake? Had volcanic gas blasted suddenly from the ground? Or had the lake water itself released the carbon dioxide? Evidence increasingly supported the lake overturn explanation. There was no sign of a fresh volcanic eruption capable of causing the devastation. The calm returned quickly. That made the lake seem even more disturbing. A landscape capable of killing thousands now looked peaceful again, while carbon dioxide continued entering its deepest water from below. The danger had not disappeared. It had begun rebuilding. Researchers calculated that another deadly accumulation could eventually form. Nearby communities faced an impossible question. Could anyone safely return if the lake might erupt again without warning? Moving everyone permanently would be difficult. Preventing the gas from rebuilding seemed nearly impossible. Then scientists proposed an unusual solution. They would place a pipe from the lake's surface down into the gas-rich deep water. A pump would begin lifting the water. As it rose, the dissolved carbon dioxide would form bubbles, and those bubbles would pull more water upward. Once started, the system could power itself. Like an open bottle spraying continuously, the pipe released a fountain of carbonated water and gas above the lake. No permanent external pump was needed. The pressure stored inside the lake did the work. After years of tests and planning, a permanent degassing pipe began operating in 2001. Additional pipes were later installed. Slowly and deliberately, they removed the carbon dioxide that had accumulated beneath the surface. A disaster created by sudden release was being prevented through controlled release. The project dramatically reduced the concentration of gas. But Lake Nyos still receives carbon dioxide from below. That means monitoring cannot simply stop. The lake must be managed as an active natural system, not treated as a threat that disappeared in 1986. Scientists also identified another concern. Part of the lake is held back by a natural volcanic dam that has weakened over time. A major failure could release water suddenly and disturb the lake. The danger surrounding Lake Nyos was never limited to one mechanism. The disaster displaced thousands of people. Some communities spent years away from their homes. For survivors, Lake Nyos was not merely a scientific case study. It was the place where families, neighbors, and entire communities disappeared in a single night. The exact death toll is commonly recorded as 1,746 people, along with thousands of livestock. Numbers describe the scale, but not the silent survivors encountered the next morning, or the experience of waking alive in a village where almost nobody else had survived. Lake Nyos changed how scientists study volcanic lakes. Researchers now examine depth, water layering, dissolved gases, and the geology beneath potentially dangerous lakes. A similar disaster remains rare, but rarity did not protect the villages below Nyos. Today, the lake is still beautiful. Its surface reflects the surrounding hills. People farm nearby. Nothing visible reveals the vast geological system beneath the water, and that is what makes the story so unsettling. The disaster did not begin with an obvious explosion. It began slowly, with invisible gas entering the bottom of a quiet lake, year after year. The danger accumulated without sound, until the water could no longer contain it. Lake Nyos showed that some catastrophes do not announce themselves. They can build beneath ordinary landscapes, hidden by pressure, depth, and time. Then, in a single night, the invisible becomes unstoppable. On August 21, 1986, the lake did not poison the water. It replaced the air, and by the time anyone understood what was moving through the valleys, thousands of people and animals had already stopped breathing. But this story did not end only in tragedy. Scientists learned how the lake had killed, then used the same physics to help make it safer. The gas that once escaped without control is now released deliberately, one continuous fountain at a time. Lake Nyos remains a warning written into the landscape. A reminder that the world's most dangerous places do not always look dangerous, and that understanding a disaster may be the only way to stop it happening again. This is The Long Game, where we follow the disasters, discoveries and mysteries that took years, or generations, to understand. If this story kept you watching, subscribe to The Long Game. There are more hidden disasters to investigate, more mysteries to unravel, and more extraordinary true stories waiting beneath the surface. Subscribe now, and join us for the next one.